You're listening to the Frequency and Flow podcast with Bree Kirk, episode number 35. In this episode, I'm speaking with Steph Wright all about how she can use her gene keys, life's work, and evolution placements to find and connect to her soulmate clients. Let's dive in. I am so excited to introduce you all to Steph Wright, who is a dear friend and someone who I've known for a little bit over a year now, almost 2 years perhaps. She is someone who came into my life through a community that we're in together, and I just absolutely adore her. She has the most fun, sweet, playful energy, and at the same time is just so genuine and so kind. And I just absolutely and just adore talking to her. We have such great conversations, and this podcast is no different. Steph is at the place in her business where she launched it in the last year or so, and she's starting to figure out what offers that she wants to have and is on the verge of introducing some new offers into her business that are just really lighting her up. And the reason that she came on this podcast today is because she wanted to understand her gifts and align those to her business, like her gifts speaking specifically to her gene keys and her conscious design, her life's work and her evolution, so that she can craft the new offers that are coming through with those gifts in mind. So we had such a fun conversation, and without any further ado, let's dive in. All right, welcome to the Frequency and Flow podcast with Bree Kirk. Today I have an incredible guest who I just love so dearly. Her name is Steph Wright. Steph, how are you today?
Hi, Bree. I'm so excited to be on the podcast. Thank you for having me. I cannot wait for our conversation.
Amazing. So let's just dive right into it. We've already been chatting a little bit. I absolutely love chatting with her, but just to get everyone here who's listening a little bit acquainted with who you are and how you serve others, why don't you tell us a little bit about your journey, where you started, where you're a little bit about what you've been going through, and then where you're at today in terms of your business or just in general.
Great. Hi, everyone. I am Steph Wright, and I am a life coach for women, and I help them love, trust, and believe in themselves so they feel empowered to move through any life transition. And how I got here, it was spring 2019. I was in a business school leadership class, and I had a paper, and one of the questions for the paper was to get feedback from 3 people that you know and trust. And I got some feedback from a friend, and I purposefully asked him because I knew he is always honest, and what I received I didn't really love. And it opened up the door to my healing journey. And since then, I have done therapy, every healing modality under the sun. And then I discovered life coaching, and I met my life coach, Rachel Ono Jaffe. And my experience with her was life changing. And after our time together, I sat down and just realized, damn, I can do whatever I want. And that was really empowering. And I ended up getting my life coaching certification because I really wanted to help women do and feel the same, because I strongly believe that when women are empowered, magic happens. And so I left my corporate job after I had my baby and started my life coaching business. And we're here today chatting. So super excited.
Amazing. So why don't, before we dive into your question, well, let's start with tell me about your experience so far with human design.
So I learned about human design a couple years ago, but don't know too much. I've gotten like a couple of those human design like PDF readings. And I've always been really fascinated because I have always been able to apply tools, like practical tools, into my life around my personal blueprint. So I've always been super intrigued, but don't know beyond my strategy and authority and type, really.
Oh, yes. That's amazing. And I'm so excited actually to like, so Steph is in the Radiant on Purpose program. So as we're recording this, she hasn't even really dove into it too much. So I just am sitting here really excited because she's about to experience, like, really go deep into her own human design and how to apply that to her business. So I'm sitting here just so excited, like twiddling my fingers because although we're going to cover some stuff today, like I'm just excited for her to get a little bit more clarity on that. Sorry, that was just a side note, but I would love, like, what is the question that you would like to use human design to answer today for your business?
Sure. So I am a new entrepreneur. I've had a long corporate career, but what I'm realizing now is that what you learn in business school and through your corporate job is very different than entrepreneur life.
For
And
sure.
so I would love your support just understanding how I can better connect to my soulmate client.
Yeah. That's so, you strike on something before I even get into it. You strike on something that's so, so true. I mean, was a marketer for like over 10 years in corporate and in agencies. And when I went over into like the online business world, there was a huge learning curve for me, even with all of that. And I also went to business school. And so it's really interesting that it's like, it should be the same. And there's definitely concepts that are the same, but it's like, it's also so different. Like how you get into business, how you start, building the pieces of your business, your offers, and the supporting things around it. So you definitely aren't alone in feeling like, I feel like there's almost a shame to it where you're like, I have all this experience. I paid all this money to get a degree in this, and like, I have no idea what I'm doing. So you're definitely
Yes.
not alone.
Yes. Oh my gosh, I can so relate. And even in just thinking about identifying and knowing your consumer and how you talk to them. I mean, every company that I've worked for has an established consumer and they have an established process. So I feel like you come in and you just do the process and find ways to make it better. Whereas being an entrepreneur, you're sort of at square zero where you don't have an established brand yet and you have to figure out how to get yourself out there and how to connect and meet with people. So, yeah, it's definitely been challenging.
Yeah, and I think that that paired with the like the reason that you go into business in the first place is to do things for you and like to do things your way. And then you're also like, well, what's going to be successful? And like you feel like you have, sometimes you're at odds. I feel like a lot of times like you're at odds with like what you feel like you should do and like why you chose to make the leap out into business and your own business in the first place. So um, anyways, well, when it cut, so like I love this place. Like the place that you're at is so fun, but it's also can be so frustrating because I think there, like the possibility is endless. And because I know you, there's like you just are so passionate about so many things and helping people. But it's like, what do you help them? Like, how do you tactically do that? So I feel what you're going through. Um, so where do we start, Steph? Where do we start? I think what the first thing that I am actually like drawn to talk about with you is your profile. And I know we had talked about going more in specific into some of the like gates and things that you have, but what I really like am drawn to is that you have this six line in your conscious profile, which is like basically the role, like how you, it's like the way that you naturally connect with people consciously. And the sixth line is very much about being a leader and almost a teacher, and like guiding people through the process that you like through the ups and downs and the challenges that you've been through. And what I think is very, like, why I'm called to say this to you is that part of being the sixth line is you've become, there's like three, what's traditionally said is there's like three phases to it, like pre-Saturn, your Saturn return when you're 28 to 30, post-Saturn return, and then when you get into your 50s, there's like a third phase. The first like phase of your life is all about just like trial and error and like going through a lot and then learning those things, where then you can in the second and third phases like start like applying them in different ways. And so I think like what you're kind of like experiencing, I think what maybe this is helpful to me, it feels a little helpful, is like a lot of what you're going through and like kind of churning the waters with this is, it's helpful because you're going to create a process, or like you're going to understand a process that's then going to help, not only help your clients, but it's like you'll be able to help them through similar things. And that's kind of like the beauty of this line six. So it's like the you learn a lot so that you can teach a lot and you can empower others, which is very much like your purpose. Like you are very passionate about helping others and their purpose. But then, it's like part of that is you just kind of need to be like the flip side of that is you need to be patient, because you're going to have to you learn the lessons the hard way and then you learn how to apply them. So it's like you're kind of in this phase where it's like frustrating, which is, that's like you're not self, you're out of alignment, you're like, I'm just frustrated. But it's like part of that is just like taking a breath and having some patience and like knowing that what you're learning here, like you will transmute it, and those will become things that help you with your like serve your own clients and obviously like along your own journey.
Wow, I feel really seen and really heard right now because I think what I've been grappling with, at least in my business over the past few months, is this idea of overnight sensation, instant gratification. And I was listening to another podcast, and this coach was talking about how um, it's it's sort of like entitlement for us to assume that, we put out our content and we become these overnight sensations. And I think being on social media constantly, you're seeing all of these other coaches and healers and space holders and all of the amazing things that they're achieving. And for me, looking from the outside, I'm thinking, how did you do that so quickly? I feel like I'm falling behind. I'm never going to get to this place. So that helps me feel a little more comforted by the fact that patience is just something that I'm going to have to, be conscious of and work on because I have zero of it.
It's like the blessing of the sixth line is like you are like when you hit that second, like you're in the second phase because you're past your Saturn return at this point. But like when you get into the third phase, that makes you visionary, like a visionary. That make you are able to like see the future and like guide people into the future. But it's like the challenge to get there is the patience, because you need all of this life experience to get you there. If that makes sense. So it's like a blessing. It's like a blessing and a challenge and all at the same time. But
It's so funny because when I first heard about the six profile, I think what I immediately thought to my immediately what came to mind was, wait, I have to wait until I'm 50 to experience the fruits of my labor?
No, no. I kind of go away. Like I do believe in a Saturn, like Saturn return is a moment of like reckoning for a lot of things. So I do feel like there's definitely like a pre-Saturn return phase, especially like for everyone, but especially line six, and a post-Saturn return phase. But um that doesn't like that doesn't mean that you can't start applying what you've learned. It's just there's and I'm not a line six and I'm not in what that third phase is supposed to be. So it's hard for me to say, but I do feel like there is another level that comes with it, but that doesn't mean that you can't start applying those learnings now. It's just a matter of inching closer and closer, or seeing things with a new, like they almost say it's like you just see things from a different perspective. Something snaps again when you see things from a different perspective, but that doesn't mean you can't start making change and helping others and using what you learned now. Like there's no reason. Um, I think what also like so I think what's interesting too, so you have a defined head and a defined ajna together. And when you were talking about how it's like, and we were talking about this a little bit before, like getting caught up in the scroll of social media and like you are heavily like having that definedness, like you have that constant pressure to like ask questions and seek answers and this actually comes up in some of the nuance of your chart, which we can talk about in a second because this actually does answer your initial question, which I know we haven't even like gotten there yet. I'm kind of like taking you on a journey here today, but is that like you're getting that constant like because you have so much activation like up in this region the head and ajna is like by seeing that and being influenced by all that energy, it's like it's putting that pressure. And it's funny because we were talking about before we even hit record is like sometimes just taking a break and like getting like allowing yourself to like remove that external energy because you do have that definition, like your own creativity, your own the way you process and the way you come up with new perspectives, that's a very internal process for you. So it's like when it like because I know you're a very creative person just because I know you and you have this like spark and this joy already. And so it's like almost having that external influence of things around you is going to weigh you down versus where your real creativity and like your real inspiration comes from is it's actually an internal thing. And so it's like allowing yourself to be a little bit lighter or a little bit in your own process is where you'll actually like what is the word I'm thinking of, like you'll that is where that creativity will bloom instead of just like trying to like when you're being bombarded with the energy of others.
That definitely makes sense because I find that I get overwhelmed very easily. And when I do step away and take breaks, I find that more comes through and I feel a physical sense of relief when I step away. But there's also that part of me, my mind saying, no, but you have to be on Instagram because the algorithm and you need to be seen and people need to see you. And yeah, I find that what happens is I'll do short sprints. Like I'll be really active and present for a couple weeks and then I just get so drained and I fizzle away for a little bit and the cycle just repeats itself. So there's not a lot of consistency.
Yeah, yeah, I think oh my gosh, this I just has me thinking. It's so funny because I'm like that on the other hand, I have an open head defined ajna. And so it's funny because sometimes like having that external stuff is actually what gets me inspired and kind of sparks things creatively. So I think, just having for you, it's like having that balance where you say you get overwhelmed. Well, yeah, because your mind is already you already have like creative stuff and inspiration like kind of going like you're processing that energy already and then you're just like adding stuff onto it like dampening what you already like that process that you already have innately. And I think so this is really interesting, this actually ties in back to your initial question is so in your evolution sphere of your gene key, so that is your conscious earth. Your evolution is like I'll just explain for I mean because I know a lot of you are pretty new to human design, but the evolution is the primary challenge that you face in your life. So it's a challenge that you come up again in different ways over and over again. It looks different, like maybe you come up against a challenge, you figure out how to raise your frequency, get your figure out ways to kind of have a new perspective and get past it, and then it comes up into your life again in new ways, different ways. It's kind of like the theme of the challenge you keep coming up against, even though it doesn't always look the same because you learn and you grow, but it's like it's the same theme that kind of keeps coming up. And so for you in your evolution, you have gene key gate 61, and it's actually called, it's funny, in human design it's called the gate of mystery. But like mystery. And it actually is in that head center, so which you have defined, and it's actually part of the channel that you have defined. And it's all about like in the lower frequency, it's that you have a lot of mental pressure to like
you keep asking questions and you feel that mental pressure and you're trying to like get into the like understand the why, like, and so you're like there's a lot of mental pressure in this challenge, and like how you come out of it is that you learn to like exhale and release the things that aren't serving you so that you can make room for the creative manifestations and the creative things to come in. So for you, like this challenge that you come up against, right? You're like seeing, it's like you're feeling where you're feeling like you need to get in the weeds and you're like, why is this happening? Why am I not doing this? Like, how is this working for this person, but not for me? And when you feel yourself, like, just like you feel like you're kind of like, yeah, like in that mental cycle, it's like, okay, what needs to, like, the way that you can kind of like to help yourself move past that is to like release, like, what do I need to get rid of that frees up this space so that I can like be in my process?
Oof, that resonates. Yes, very much get caught up in the why, and for sure, am constantly trying to figure out, "We literally did the same thing, but why are you getting X result and I'm getting Y result?" And I think, like you were saying, I get really lost in that issue, which isn't the one that's serving me, and then I think it rabbit holes into a place where then I'm, overwhelmed and sad and feeling down on myself, and then I don't end up doing anything.
Yeah. I think,
Um,
and oh, go ahead.
oh, yeah, and I think for me, it's probably needing to figure out how to release those thoughts and questions that don't serve me for my mind, because I'm also an overthinker.
Well, that is because you have that head na ajna, like that is like the human design. That is, you are an overthinker. Like that is it in a nutshell, because it's just like it's easy to get caught in those mental loops. And like the advice I have for you is like might be not hard to swallow. It might not be what you want to hear, but part of the way to like step out of that and like learn how to raise above this challenge of like this mental pressure that you're putting on yourself all the time is to accept that you need to live in the question, and like living without having those questions answered, and just trust, like having that trust and having that trust and like reminding yourself to have that trust, and that it's okay to have those questions, but just know there's, even though you're seeing someone have success who it feels like you should be on the same like level as them, it's like you don't know what's happening behind the scenes. You're never going to know what's happening behind the scenes. And you just need to trust that it's like you're on the right path and live in that question, and just like accept that there's always going to be a question that you might not be able to answer or understand. And that's okay. You're just going to keep doing things as you should, or like as you're going to.
Honestly, hearing that is actually pretty validating, because I think prior to hearing this, I've always felt very hard on myself for not being able to just move through things or get over things or move on the way that other people that I know can. Um, yeah, like with me, it just, I get fixated and I get stuck on whatever it is that I'm focused on. So it actually is relieving to hear that that's part of my design and that there's nothing wrong with that. It's just now equipping myself with the tools to be able to just be in the question, and
Yeah.
that's okay, and, like, I won't have the answers to all of them, and I'm just gonna have to move on.
I know it's like it's probably like frustrating to hear. There's going to be those moments where you're like, ugh, like why, But I think at the same time, it's like knowing that no one has all the answers, and and I know that you're like also very spiritual. Like that's how we met, through like a spiritual connection, like community. So it's like just try like divine timing, divine trust, like just trust, 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 timing, timing, timing. there's something, there's something else there that's like meant for me, or I'm meant to have this lesson. I'm meant to go through this depth of like where I don't understand, because that's what you're going to use to step into that sixth line.
Oh, I love that. I also feel like it's a universal message coming through for me because it's one that has been on repeat since probably the beginning of the year. This faith, trust, and divine timing.
Oh yeah. Not always the easiest thing to hear, but or
Right.
sometimes it is. I feel like for me personally, I'm like, sometimes I hear it and I'm like, why? And then sometimes I hear it and I'm like, oh, and it helps me just like, okay, okay, I can do this.
Yes, it's teaching me to be less of a control freak and just trust that whatever's meant for me will happen at its own time in its own way.
Yeah. I mean, this evolution where you have this, like, this is your very ground, right? It's your conscious earth. So it's like a very, very grounding energy. So, we're kind of going out of sync with like what your activation sequence is, because the other like programming partner to this is your life's work, which is more about like the journey that you're here to do. So that life's work is like, that's your very expansive, that's your like, I mean, that's your conscious sun. It's like that is your, it's like a, like, that is your, I mean, it's your sun. I don't know how else to describe it because I'm like at a blank for words, but like that is your like primary energy. That is like, it's very, you know, like expansive, and it's very enlightening and things like that. And it's like, so that pairs with this evolution. The evolution's your conscious earth. And this is like the challenge that like keeps bringing you back to earth, where you're like, when you maybe, and I'll tell you more about your life's work just to give you a little bit more context in a second, but it's like that life's work, when you kind of step into that and you come out of the shadow and into the gift, you're like feeling really great. And then you'll hit this challenge of like getting a little bit too in the weeds and in the details. And that's what like kind of pulls you, like tries to pull you back down. And so it's a matter of like finding that balance between them, or like recognizing it and having those work together. And to just like, because you're going to have these challenge, like you're going to find this again. So it's, it's like you're going to come up against this mental pressure when you feel yourself asking all these questions. Like that's what's kind of brings you back down to earth. And it's like, okay, how can if I'm asking all these questions or I'm caught up in the weeds, how can I, like, what do I need to get rid of so that I can just focus more on what's the task at hand, or what's in front of me, instead of like getting just bogged down in the weight of everything else that I'm like getting distracted by.
I love it. I imagine all of those like thoughts being balloons that are attached to me and me just having to like snip some of them off
I
and
love
float away.
it. Bye bye. I'm just
Bye.
gonna.
See you never. I don't have time for you.
Well, like, and I feel like this goes really, I mean, so your life's work and your evolution, like I said, they're what's called programming partners. So it's like that shadow, that like asking all the questions, it can get triggered or is triggered by the shadow of your life's work. And your life's work is really getting caught up in facts and details and like really going in. So it's like when you get caught up in facts and details, you start to ask more questions about like, why is this happening? How is this happening? Blah, blah, blah. And it's like they almost trigger each other, where then you go deeper into the details and deeper into like deeper into the questions. And it's like you get caught up in this you can get caught up in this spiral where you just keep going like down and down. And all of a sudden, when you bring yourself out of it, you might be like, what am I even doing here? Like, why? Like, where am I? Like, why am I like obsessing over this weird little thing right now? I don't know.
That's really funny because it just reminds me of school when I mean for papers and I'm thinking like study guides. I'll use a study guide. So sometimes you'd be able to bring in a study guide to your exams. And yeah, I wanted every single detail. Like I would want to pack in like 4 pages of text into like a 2-inch box because, that was only one part of what the exam was on. And I write like in the most minuscule handwriting to get it all in there. But I was not able to discern what I actually needed and what I didn't. I just knew that I needed all of it.
That is very much like that's pretty funny. So like, because I'm thinking, I'm like, well, how, so that's like more in the shadow frequency of the life's work. But it's like what is really interesting is like how so because that is very, you know, like that level of detail and that level of like facts and like needing to know all the facts and like um is very much like that's kind of like a masculine energy. And so especially because along with this, so this your life's work is gate 62. It's called like the gene key, no, sorry, human design name of it is precision. And so it's like getting so caught up in facts and details and almost like using word, like focusing on the words and the meaning of words. And it's like very much about the structure of things. So it's like very masculine and very like head mind driven and like transmuting that into the gift. So the gift is precision, which is it's like finding the balance between your head and your heart. So it's like when you find yourself like too much in your head and you're not using your heart, that's the shadow. Whereas the gift is when you not just balance those two, but you lead with your heart and allow your mind to support your heart. And specifically, it's through the use of words and language. So it's like it's using that language to convey and be persuasive without getting caught up in the details of what words mean and structure and um, you know what you're saying and how you're saying it. And when I saw this for you, I immediately thought, because so Steph, as I mentioned, has been with me for a while. You I mean, you did the boot camp with me last year where I did like a preliminary human design reading with you. And even just in talking in some of the coaching conversations we had, you have an undefined throat and you're so nervous about the words that you put forward and like not having that consistent throat energy. And it's amazing to me because your life's work is actually like the gift is the mastery of language and using like like moving people and creating change through your words. And I just thought that was amazing.
What? That's so cool because I have always loved to write. Um, like ever since I was a kid, I would write my own stories. And then through conditioning and school, I decided I wasn't a good writer just because I didn't always do well in, my English classes and I'm not very good at grammar. I don't know where to put my commas sometimes. Um, but I've always loved to write. Like, it just especially when I'm in the right energy, because for me, like you were sharing, it's a very, like, emotional and heart connected activity for me, and I actually love to express my love and feelings and emotions for people through my words. And I'd always wanted to start a blog. And finally, when I launched my business in November, I decided I'm going to do the blog. I don't care anymore. I have all these words that I want to share. And I've really just enjoyed doing it. Like, I think it allows me to kind of go off on my tangents because like you were also sharing about my design, lots of details, lots of words. So I think I'm still figuring out, my style and my speed, but right now it's a lot of words. I do like including a lot of detail. I often get the your caption is too long from Instagram.
I mean, I think it's like I love because that to me is like that's your gift, and I knew because I know you like a blog is a big piece of like you love to write and what you do, and we actually talked about that last year of like the blog, your blog, and I love that because it's like the blog is kind of the balance of the gift of this life's work of like and the open throat because the open throat is more like yeah you're gonna have an inconsistency like who cares if you don't know grammar? Like in the end, like I know we're trained and we're like, you know, get points marked down on our papers when we misplace a comma when we were kids, but it's like none of that matters now. No one really cares what your grammar is like. they care about like what you're saying and the frequency in which you're saying it. And I feel like the more that you tap into your heart and you speak from your heart and you let go of like that stupid structure stuff that doesn't matter, like that masculine side of things, like what's in your head, I think your words will become clearer and like it'll like simple like because you'll be speaking from that frequency. I think you'll almost like streamline yourself or simplify yourself, and you're like you'll get more clear in what you're trying to speak through. But you just got to let that channel like go and practice like tapping in and writing and tapping it like strengthen that muscle more with like and practice getting out of the details and the what's in your head and asking all the questions like does this comma go here, does this comma go here, and just really like honing in on that. And I feel like that's going to just really like open things up for you.
Oh, I love that so much. My heart is beaming right now. It's just like grinning from heart cheek to heart cheek. And saying, "See mine? We were on to something."
I'm just upset. Like I said, I've been real before we hopped on here. I'm like, I've been really deep in your human design stuff. So I might go off on some tangents. I feel like I've not been too crazy, but uh, I do just love, I just love it because I remember a year ago, like you felt really insecure about the undefined throat. And it's like, that's actually a huge gift, especially when paired with that life's work. And I think from, like using this, so your life's work kind of being that journey that you model for others, it's like there, I feel like, maybe your takeaway from this or like thing to kind of think about is like how, what am I trying to say here? Like, how have, as you go through this process and as like you're learning to trust yourself more, this is being validated in your design. And it's like, how do you see others kind of making similar mistakes or coming up against similar pitfalls? And like, how are you, like, as you're learning to tap more into that frequency and just get into more of your heart and less of your head, um, or letting your, it's more like let your mind support your heart, and like how are you doing that, and then like how are you then going to be able to help others do the same?
I really love that, and it really feels supportive because, again, just with the flood of stuff that I see on Instagram sometimes, the advice and the guidance that you see about what you should talk about, um, like as a business owner, as a coach, sometimes, you know, there's that advice to not share too much about yourself because you don't want it to be your personal development journey, right? It's not really about your clients and your potential clients. And I think that that has been really hard for me to sort of bridge because I love sharing through my experience. And I love being able to share what I have learned and how I've gotten there. And I never want to come across as, this is how you should do it. This is the only way. Because it's not. And that's what I'm, finally feeling comfortable in right now, that it's not the only way and that everyone's journey is different. But just know that you are not alone. I am here with you. And this is how I've been through it. Just a thought worth considering.
Yeah. Well, I mean, especially for you as a life coach, isn't like, shouldn't you be your best client?
Yes! That's how I feel too, which is why I'm like, I don't understand what this advice is, guys.
Like, I think, I mean, just speaking to like building connection and building trust, it's like you want, I mean, this is me personally, and I feel like this is a lot of people. Like, you want to know someone. I mean, first of all, you don't want to feel alone. So, in sharing some of what you're struggling with and your work, like that is relatable on its own. Because to your point, I feel like a lot of what's out there is like, I never struggle. Like, this is why I'm so awesome. And that's just not really relatable. Like, yes, it's done for marketing to like prove authority, but I also feel like I'm quoting here, like proving authority. But I feel like also like you're not like when you do that, you're not always speaking to the process. And it's like part of what makes you trustable as a life coach is for someone to understand what your process is and so that they can feel safe enough with you. And so again, like whether because you are just starting out, you don't have a ton of like you're not overwhelmed with paying clients right now. It's like you're your own best client, and you always should be, no matter, even when your business is fully booked out, like because you will be consistently up leveling yourself. Like how are you showing how you handle those next levels? Like how do you coach yourself through those next levels?
Yes, I'm nodding my head over here like a little bobblehead. 1,000% yes.
Awesome. So I know we didn't really get into too much about like your clients and like who specifically to speak to, but I really like, and normally at this point in the episode, I kind of ask like, what are your action items? I do have one action item that is just to write more, just write and like use your voice. I mean, is there anything else that came up from our conversation that you have as a takeaway here?
Yeah, so I think for me, also agreeing with your write more takeaway, um, but it's trusting my heart and my intuition. I think a lot of times there will be ideas that come to me that I really want to offer or write about, but my mind is like, no, no one's gonna read that. No one cares about that. Here are the approved list of topics that we can write about. And so then I don't end up writing about it. And, I end up sitting in front of my computer for hours, like trying to figure out, all right, well, how do I write about this? I don't feel inspired. So this session has helped given me permission to just do it. Just write whatever sparks, like lights a spark within me. Um, and
I
to
love
find that balance between head and heart. And then to
that.
also just embrace the sixth line.
Embrace it, accept it, just yes.
Yes. Patience,
I
divine timing, trust and faith, and keep sharing your story.
uh, something that you said, sorry, that I just like want to comment on too is when you talked about like having that approved list of things to blog on, like how do I even say this without sounding kind of, I don't know, but I'll just say it is like if everyone's posting on the same approved topics, those people are all exactly the same. And it's like if everyone's posting the same things that are the approved things, how is anyone going to know that you are uniquely suited to them if you're censoring yourself or you're trying to make your writing match like what's approved, quote unquote approved? And like yes, there's certain ways, like thinking very practically from a marketing standpoint, like yes, maybe you can title a blog a certain way so that it captures people's attention a little bit more. But like if you're just creating the same type of content that everyone else is creating and you have the same approach that's an approved approach, like you're never going to stand out. You're just going to blend in, and that's no fun.
Amen. And you know what? The best part is I am going to play this back to my mind when I'm having one of those moments.
Like screw the rules, no commas for anyone, no
Listen
no
here.
punctuation.
We're going to talk about whatever we want to.
Amazing. This has been so, so, so much fun. Before we wrap up, Steph, why don't you share with people how they can find you and work with you?
Thanks, Brie. Oh, this was so much fun. I just want to add, I could talk to you all day, every day. um,
I feel the
and
same way.
and you can find me at the underscore right underscore Steph on Instagram or at therightsteph.com. And that's right, WRIGHT.
Amazing. Steph, this has been amazing. Oh, I cannot wait. I'm so excited for just everything that's coming up and to see where this journey unfolds. You're at a place that is, yes, it's overwhelming and confusing, but it's so, so, so exciting because you can make it exactly what you want. So just
Oh, Bree, you are amazing. I am so grateful for you and for you stepping into your power and your gifts and sharing your magic with all of us because you have certainly made my life brighter and I am excited for you and to witness your magical journey. So, thank you again for having me.
Okay, how incredible is Steph? Isn't she just such a light in this world? She's so fun to talk to. I feel like we could have kept talking forever. That entire conversation felt like it took maybe 15 minutes, and I could have kept talking to her for quite a while. In fact, we talked for a while before we even hit record and continued to talk after we finished the recording. I just love her. I love her perspective on the world and just how she's starting to really bloom into the business that she's building. Coming from similar backgrounds, getting a business degree, making it and succeeding in the business world, and then stepping into this world of online entrepreneurship. Uh, I definitely relate to her journey in some capacity. So it's just, we could talk about that all day. Um, what it is I really love about Steph too is that she really is just so authentic to herself, and that fun, playful, joyful version of herself is just so true to who she is. And without it being, with it being also very real. And so I just, like I said, I love every conversation I have with her. She's actually in, so as of the recording of our conversation, she had just joined my program, Radiant on Purpose. So this was actually a really fun introduction to the content that we're going to be diving into together through the program. And so I loved it. I was telling her beforehand, I'm like, this is like a sneak peek of what you're going to be getting. So get ready. And we had so much fun. Just what we covered in our conversation was like the tip of the iceberg in terms of what we cover in Radiant on Purpose. Because in the program, Radiant on Purpose, we use your human design and your gene keys to create a magical marketing strategy and a powerful content plan that is uniquely you and aligns with your energetic blueprint. This helps you so that you can find, engage, influence, and impact your soulmate clients while also staying authentic to your true self and tapping into an open faucet of creativity so that you can grow your business joyfully and sustainably. And what I talked about here today with Steph is just one small piece of the Radiant on Purpose methodology and program. And that program is now open for enrollment. It's actually open on an evergreen basis. Whenever it is the right time for you, I'm willing to take you in open arms. So if this resonates with you at all, you can go to www.breecouric.com/radiant to learn more. And if you like what you heard today, remember to subscribe, comment, and like wherever you listen to your podcasts. And I'd also love it if you took a screenshot of your favorite part of the episode and shared it on your Instagram stories, tagging at Bree Couric, or send me a DM to say hello. I can't wait to meet you.